and already 54 have voted, and they have not counted any of the vote by mail ballots that are out here to be counted. So it seems like that's a pretty strong turnout, particularly where we have no local contest this time in our precinct. The other precinct does, we don't. And the other precinct has even a higher total, over 100 in person. So it looks to me like it's going to be a pretty encouraging turnout across the board, and that's very gratifying. It's been a very challenging election because of the fact that we've had all these various options for voters to participate, but I think it speaks to the commitment of the voters that they have participated in the importance of this election cycle. So I'm very encouraged by what I've seen so far.
Are there any early reports of any issues right now?
Well, there are no issues in terms of procedure. The issues in terms of the standard administrative issues that come up, the box kicked out a ballot or something like that, nothing of great concern. All precincts in the state are open and functioning at this time and have been since 7 o'clock this morning, so everyone opened on time. The issues, if you want to call them that, or the problems that people are encountering, is people in the polling locations are confronting situations where people are coming in saying, I asked for a mail ballot, either I didn't return it and I want to vote in person, or I did and I don't know that it was received. So in some instances, to be very careful, the clerks working in these polling locations are calling to their local election offices to verify that the mail-in ballot has not been received before they let the person vote. It may slow things down a bit, but that's the right thing to do. It guarantees that persons will only vote once, because once a ballot was in the system, we couldn't retrieve it. So I think it's being cautious. It again is also illustrative to us of some of the challenges we're going to have going forward in November, when we have a higher volume than we even have now, and how we're going to proceed in these. I'm very happy that we were able to give voters the option of voting by mail and not having to vote in person, and many of them took advantage of it, but we're going to have to probably refine our procedures for November when the volume is going to increase by so much.
Is there any kind of uniform safeguard that, say someone did mail their ballot yesterday,
Yes.
they come here, they vote in person, and then their mail-in ballot that is...
Yes. The reason why they're calling is they're showing on the list of having asked for a vote by mail ballot. So in other words, we've tracked all those people that they received the ballot. We know that it was barcoded, so we know they got it. Now the question is did they use it? And that's what they're trying to verify, that it has not been received back. That's the safeguard. We've been very thoughtful about that. It's put a tremendous burden on local election officials, and we recognize that. But given the option we were giving people, that was the only way we could track it. The preoccupation about the integrity of the process is something that's been really on my mind from the beginning.
So for those folks who might be a little frustrated at this point, what's your best advice for them to just sit tight and let these clerks do their work?
Yeah, they have to do their work. I mean, fortunately, the volume, while it's good, and I'm encouraged by it, is not so great as that they can't check on it. If they're asked to wait a few minutes while they reach out in Boston, for instance, to Boston City Hall, or in their community to their town hall, just to verify they don't have it in the clerk's office waiting to come out. Right here, for instance, I just observed they have a number of ballots that had been sent out from City Hall. That had been received by mail. They haven't processed any of them yet. They're waiting to get through the morning. And so they're here. They want to check and make sure they're not sitting on two ballots. And this isn't deliberate. This is somebody that mailed it, the mails were delayed, whatever happened, and now they want to make sure they vote. They're being outwardly very responsible, and we're being responsible also.
Is there any other safeguard besides election officials or poll workers?
Well, the system, they don't notice it because in the book they're marked as not eligible to vote because they've already gotten a ballot. They're marked in the book that the voters have. So and the local people have been instructed about that. So it's the same as if they had not been registered. They're not eligible to vote by the book, the master list that was run last night.
Any cases of poll workers backing out today and saying they're not?
None that I've heard of. And I think most places had anticipated they might need some extra people, and they've done that.
Just going back to the mail-in issue, so at the end of the day, when we're getting close to polls closing, if this is a continuous thing throughout the day, and somebody has to wait for phone calls, will they hold how will that work?
Well, if there's a voter waiting to vote at 8 o'clock, they're going to be allowed to vote. That would be the case even if there was a line of people. State law requires if you're in line at 8 o'clock, you're waiting to vote at 8 o'clock, and you're inside the polling place, you're entitled to vote even if it's 9 o'clock. And frequently in presidential elections, it is 9 o'clock. So I'm not concerned about time. This is not about beating the clock. This is about making sure that every voter who wants to participate gets to do so, but only once.
What if someone comes inside and they refuse to wear a mask?
Well, we anticipated that. We're saying to people, the local election officials, if somebody refuses to wear a mask, and they can be asked, they can be offered a mask, but if they refuse to do so, they're still going to be allowed to vote, but they're going to have to vote at a segregated place. As you may have noticed when your cameraman was inside, some of the carols are marked off. You can't, so they know there's a segregated place. So we've already anticipated that. No one's going to be denied the right to vote, but on the other hand, they may have to vote in a removed place where they're not close to anybody else. Anything else?
And there's no chance that someone could have mailed their ballot. Sorry to get on this with you, but could have mailed the ballot yesterday. They come here, they vote in person today, and then the ballot is
No.
received later in the day and still.
If it were received later in the day, it won't be processed. I mean, that's the cross-check. That's why the delay. I mean, it's the constant communication between the election office where the ballot would be received. That's why, as I mentioned yesterday, and I want to reiterate now, if you've completed your mail ballot and you still have it, you cannot drop it to the polls. You can drop it to your town hall, but you can't drop it to the polls. The reason for that, and we had people yesterday calling why, the reason is so we can verify that it has not been, that it's properly checked in, and so you don't get to vote twice. We're not deeply suspicious of people. We recognize with the postal problems and the time and the volume, that mistakes, innocent mistakes could be made, but we don't want that to happen. We want these to be, everyone gets to vote once and only once. I believe the voting by mail has been a positive experience. I believe that it's an opportunity for voters to participate, and I think today's results and what we've seen so far prove that. I think for those of us who have advocated for voting by mail, we have an obligation to protect the integrity of the process against those who criticize it. And protecting the integrity of the process requires these procedures, and that's why we're doing it.
Picture perfect day. Do you think your prediction numbers are going to be higher?
I'm beginning to think I might have been a little low. You know, I know, as I said, the precinct I vote in, we do not have a local legislative contest. There's one in the adjacent precinct, but not in mine. And yet we have a very good turnout. So most of my ballot is uncontested. So if you have that happening here, what about places where there are local races? I think of, for instance, Brockton and some Springfield and some other cities, Everett, that have significant local races. Watertown, just across the river, has significant local races. So it's going to be a high turnout, I think, which is encouraging.
Any lesson learned from this primary that you are going to change something?
Well, we're going to examine our procedures for November. I mean, we believe that we did it right, but we learned things. Everybody learns things when you do something you've never done before, and hopefully we're going to improve. We're going to have a sit down with the clerks virtually. We're going to Zoom with the clerks and figure out what to do better, and we're going to try to do it better. But the other thing I have to keep reminding everybody of, because I have to remind myself of it, it's 62 days to November 3rd. Whatever we're seeing today, this is nothing compared to what we're going to confront then. So the challenge is much greater. We know that.
So the possibility of someone voting twice does exist. It counts on the
It doesn't exist. Anything exists. People can go in and vote more than once illegally if they want to. Obviously, we don't think people are doing this deliberately. If we did think that, we would prosecute them. We would, and we will. I don't think that's happened. I think that because of delays in the Postal Service and delays of the administrative process, it's possible good intentioned people could have managed to have a ballot sent in and want to still vote in person. We're making extra effort to make sure that doesn't happen. That's why the delays. And I ask people to be patient with the delays. The delays are to verify. You don't want your ballot canceled out by somebody's second ballot. We're trying to be scrupulous about this. We have to be scrupulous about it. It's too important.
Just thinking forward to November, if someone is utilizing the mail-in process, I mean, it seems to me it would be easier if they knew they didn't receive the ballot to contact their local clerk before they.
Well, we had a lot of that, and we had a lot of people calling in. And don't forget, Track My Ballot on my website. Okay, that's once you're registered locally, it immediately goes to that system. So that's pretty much in real time. So we know that. We're going to try to work on improving that. We're going to set up a portal for November. I can tell you that now, to allow people to not have to put something in paper, which will again give us more control over what's happening. So we're looking at all those things. We know what we're confronting in November. I know what I'm confronting, and I know what the local officials are confronting. And it's going to be challenging. We know that. But it's worth it. People should have the right to vote. No one should have to not be able to vote because they're afraid of their health. And we're going to make sure people have the right to vote. That's it. Thank you. Have a great day.